Strap in. This one is both mind-boggling and at times hilarious. A dude I had been talking to for a while asked if I wanted to go grab a drink. It's a Tuesday and it's already kinda late, but I'm like, sure, we live somewhat near each other, so what's one drink? As I'm getting a little prettier, he asks if I can come pick him up because his car is in the shop. The bar he chose is super close to his house, so I'm hesitant but sullery. The roads are not great, it's December and freezing out, but I get over there. First thing was on me. I had been talking to two different guys with the same name. I had them marked with nicknames in my phone as Ryan 1 and Ryan 2. Ryan 1 was meh and was already starting to drop off my radar. Ryan 2 was who I was going to go out with. So when I dialed Ryan to tell him I'm outside, take a guess as to which one I called. That was an awkward minute telling a guy I'd never talked to on the phone that I was outside his house. Smiley face. Alright, so that blip aside, I call the correct Ryan, and he comes out. He looks like he didn't put any effort into his appearance, and I'm already starting to wonder if maybe this wasn't worth it. Then he gets in the car, and that feeling is confirmed and hard. He fucking reeks of cigarettes with a hint of beer. I'm trying not to flinch because I think maybe it's just me. I had quit smoking 6 months before, so I knew what it was like to not be able to smell what an ashtray I smelled like, but damn. We head over to the bar, and he's telling me how much prettier I am in person, how he thinks I'm really funny, and I'm still trying to get past the smell, and how he exhales a lot of air when he talks. We go to order drinks, and he orders shots. Plural. 3 to be exact. Apparently 2 are for me because he already had 1 at home, and I need to catch up. I tell him I don't really do shots, and I'm driving, so have at it. Big mistake. We got there at like 9, and that dude kept us there until closing. The whole time he keeps ordering more drinks, and is getting wasted to the point where I think I should just call him a cab and bail because what the fuck, who does this? Finally I get him along, and I'm like, okay guy, I gotta work in the morning, how about we call it a night? He says fine. We get back in the car, I drive back to his house as quickly as possible, and as soon as I pop the emergency brake, this same dude who literally makes me nauseous to the point where I feel like I can't breathe, who is completely clueless to my lack of attraction, grabs my whole fucking head and sticks his tongue straight down my throat. I gripped his wrists so hard I'm sure that I broke skin trying to back up, and he finally lets go. He backs up, eyes still closed, and goes em. He opens his eyes, smiles, and boops me on the nose. I spent the drive home frantically searching for gum in my purse because holy fuck, he tasted disgusting. And when I get there, I got one more gift from him. He sent me 3 dick pics with comments like, miss you already. So yeah, I don't even know where to begin with this story, but it was the shit, pun intended. If I don't vent here, I might scream into the void or something. I just need to get this out, because I have never in my life been on a date so catastrophically bad. Like, I've had bad dates before, who hasn't? There was the guy who talked about his ex the entire time, the dude who showed up 45 minutes late and didn't apologize, and even the one who tried to split a $12 check 80/20ths because he only had a water. But this was next level. This was the Mount Everest of bad dates. And the thing is, it all started so promisingly. Ugh, okay, let me back up. So I matched with this guy, let's call him Matt, on one of the apps. You know, the one where everyone says they're looking for something serious, but 90% of them are just there for free validation or situationships. Anyway, Matt seemed different. He had this really cute, goofy smile, said he loved dogs, important, and his profile had just the right amount of self-deprecating humor without coming across as insecure. He even spelled everything correctly in his messages, which is like finding a unicorn these days. We chatted for about a week, and our conversations were genuinely great, funny, flirty, and way less awkward than most first date preambles. The man even used punctuation. I was impressed. We decided to meet up for dinner and drinks at this trendy little gastropub downtown. You know the type, exposed brick, Edison bulbs, charcuterie boards that cost more than my phone bill. I was excited, like actually excited. That almost never happens anymore. I even shaved my legs. In late October. If that doesn't scream high hopes, I don't know what does. Fast forward to date night. He shows up on time, a miracle. Looks even better in person, another miracle. And is super polite to the waitstaff, triple miracle. I'm already mentally planning how I'm going to describe this to my friends in the group chat the next day. You guys, I think I just had the best first date of my life. Dinner goes great. Like amazing. We're laughing, we're vibing, we're doing that thing where you start leaning closer and closer across the table without even realizing it. He orders this massive burger with a side of truffle fries, and I tease him about how there's no way he's going to finish it. He grins and says, "Watch me." It's cute. Everything about him is cute. I'm already picturing us as one of those obnoxious couples who post matching Halloween costumes on Instagram. Too soon? Don't care. The man was fine. After dinner, we decide to grab a drink at a bar nearby. One drink turns into two, and by this point, I'm feeling bold. Like, let's skip the games and go make out on my couch bold. So I suggest we head back to my place. He hesitates for like half a second, just long enough for me to think, "Oh God, did I misread this?" But then he smiles and says, "Yeah, okay, let's go." Cue internal victory dance. Here's where things start to go south. Literally. We get to my apartment, and I'm feeling great. I've got candles lit, music playing, not too obvious, just a chill indie playlist that says, I'm cool and mysterious, but also totally approachable. We're sitting on the couch, and I'm thinking, this is it. This is the start of my rom-com moment. That's when he says it. "Hey, where's your bathroom?" No big deal, right? People gotta pee. I point him toward the hallway, and he heads off. I'm sitting there, sipping my wine, waiting for him to come back so we can continue our flirty banter and maybe, progress things. But he doesn't come back. 5 minutes pass. Then 10. At this point, I'm starting to think, okay, maybe he's just nervous. First date jitters. Happens to the best of us. I even convince myself it's kind of cute. Like, he's probably giving himself a little pep talk in the mirror. Adorable. But then it's 15 minutes. And then 20 minutes. Now I'm concerned. Not because I think anything's wrong with him, but because I'm starting to feel like I might be the problem. Did I say something weird? Was my apartment too messy? It wasn't. I cleaned for this man like I was hosting the Queen of England. I'm spiraling. Finally, I hear the toilet flush. And flush. And then flush again. Y'all, when I tell you the sound of that third flush sent a chill down my spine. I knew. I just knew. Something had gone horribly, horribly wrong. He comes out of the bathroom a minute later, and he looks like he's seen a ghost. Like full-on pale, sweaty, deer in headlights vibes. I'm about to ask if he's okay when he blurts out, "I think I clogged your toilet." Now, I want to be clear about something. I am not a monster. I get it. Stuff happens. Toilets clog. It's not the end of the world. But the way he said it, the sheer terror in his voice. I knew this wasn't just a little clog. This was a situation. I try to play it cool. "Oh, no big deal," I say, smiling like a liar. "I've got a plunger under the sink." He doesn't move. He just stands there, looking at me with this haunted expression, like I just told him he has to perform open-heart surgery with a spork. So I sigh, get up, and go grab the plunger myself. Y'all, when I opened that bathroom door, I can't even describe the scene. It was like a crime scene. A poo crime scene. The toilet was overflowing. There was water on the floor. The smell, oh my God, the smell. I gagged. I literally gagged. I turned around, plunger in hand, and he's just standing there in the hallway, looking like a kid who got caught shoplifting. "I'm so sorry," he mumbles. "I don't know what happened." "I'll tell you what happened, Matt. You ate a burger the size of your head, chased it with 2 IPAs, and then decided to ruin my plumbing. That's what happened. Long story short, too late, I know. I spent the next 20 minutes plunging my own toilet while he stood there awkwardly, offering useless suggestions like, "Maybe try flushing again? Do you not see the water on the floor, Matt?" By the time I finally got everything under control, I was sweaty, exhausted, and in absolutely no mood to make out with anyone. He apologized a million times, but the damage was done. I told him I wasn't feeling well and basically shoved him out the door. The best part? He texted me the next day to say he had a great time and wanted to see me again. Like, sir, you destroyed my bathroom. You made me wade through toilet water on a first date. How do you come back from that? Anyway, that's the story of how my dream date turned into my worst nightmare. I'm still single, and my bathroom still smells weird. Thanks for listening, random internet strangers. My name is Marcus, and I currently live in Flagstaff, Arizona. I moved here from Yuma after I got a job teaching high school science. I thought I'd stay for a year. That was 5 years ago. I've always been a little awkward when it comes to dating. I'm not shy, but I overthink everything. I rehearse conversations in my head, worry about whether my laugh sounds like a wheeze, and triple check if my car smells okay before picking someone up. Long story short, dating apps weren't kind to me. But one night, I matched with a woman named Amy. Her profile photo was her sitting on a red Vespa, holding a latte the size of her head. Her bio said, writer, runner, and professional popcorn thief. That last line got me. We talked for a week before she agreed to meet. She suggested a movie, something low pressure. I offered to buy tickets. She said she'd pick the snacks, but warned me. I'm serious about popcorn. Like, don't touch my top layer serious. I showed up early, of course. She arrived in a jean jacket and dark lipstick, hair up in a loose bun. She smiled like we were already in on a joke together. The movie was a throwback screening of Jaws. Fitting considering how nervous I was. Every heartbeat felt like the next big scare. But once we sat down, things felt easy. Our arms brushed. She leaned in to whisper sarcastic commentary during the trailers. I laughed too loud. She pretended not to notice. About 30 minutes into the movie, it happened. Amy reached into the popcorn bag, then suddenly froze. I looked over. She was coughing, light at first. Then harder. Her eyes widened. She grabbed at her throat. For a second, I thought she was joking, like a dramatic reaction to a burnt kernel. Then I saw her lips turn pale. She stood up, stumbled into the aisle, and fell to her knees. People turned. Someone screamed. The movie kept playing, unbothered. I jumped up and shouted, "She's choking." I'd taken a CPR course once, years ago. Never used it. My hands shook as I knelt behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. "Can I help you?" I asked loudly, in case she could hear. She nodded. "Barely." I started the Heimlich. Once. Nothing. Twice. Nothing. Third time, she coughed. Something small and shiny flew out of her mouth and bounced down the aisle. She gasped and clutched her chest, breathing hard, tears streaming down her face. People clapped. Someone called for an usher. A woman handed Amy a bottle of water. I helped her back to her seat. "You okay?" I asked, my voice shaking. She nodded, still catching her breath. I was trying to show off. I put 2 junior mints and a kernel in my mouth at the same time, like a snack sandwich. I laughed, half in relief, half in disbelief. "That's not a thing." "It is now," she said, voice raspy. We didn't finish the movie. I offered to drive her home, but she insisted on sitting in the parking lot for a while. Said she needed fresh air and a less embarrassing place to die, if it came to that. We sat in my car. She wrapped herself in my hoodie. Her knees were still shaking. "I've never choked in front of someone before," she said. "I've never saved anyone before," I replied. We were quiet for a minute. Then she looked at me and said, "You know, if this were a rom-com, I'd kiss you now." I blinked. "You almost died." "Almost. Not actually." She leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't fireworks. It was soft, real, a little salty from the tears and the popcorn. It was perfect. We dated for 2 years after that. Turns out, Amy really was a professional popcorn thief. Every movie date, she'd reach into my bucket before hers. Said mine tasted better. She also wrote poetry on napkins, ran 5 Burmese chots in old Converse, and believed the first 5 minutes of a conversation said more than 5 years of small talk. We moved in together a year later. Adopted a cat named Steven. Learned to cook together. Argued about whether putting ketchup on eggs was a crime. It is. Then one night, I took her back to the same theater. They were playing Jaws again. I packed a bag of popcorn at home and slipped something inside, small, shiny, and not edible. Halfway through the movie, she reached in, pulled it out, choked for half a second, then laughed. Inside was a ring. I whispered, "Don't worry, no mints this time." She said yes. We got married that fall. My name's Kalani, and I live in a place most people mispronounce, Kihei Maui. It's not the dreamy tourist postcard version of Hawaii people imagine. I mean, sure, the sunsets are still perfect and the breeze still smells like salt and mango skins, but if you live here long enough, you realize paradise has its shadows too. Mine crept in through my phone. After my last breakup, I told myself I was done. I'd spent 5 years with someone who made me feel like I was too much and not enough all at once. His name was Darius, and by the end of it, I was a shell. I stopped painting, stopped surfing, even stopped talking to my mom. I let love shrink me, and I wanted no part of it anymore. But loneliness is funny. It doesn't hit all at once. It comes in waves. Quiet ones, slow ones, ones that look like just checking in texts or scrolling through photos of couples on the beach. So one night, after too much wine and not enough self-control, I downloaded Heart Match. It was the name that got me. Heart match. Like it knew what I was looking for. Not a hookup. Not a distraction. Just something that felt like it mattered. That night, I matched with John. His profile wasn't anything flashy. One picture of him on a boat, another holding a guitar, and a third of him with a golden retriever that he said belonged to his sister. He lived on the Big Island, but visited Maui for work. His messages were calm and thoughtful. No weird pickup lines. No pressure. Just lots of questions about me, my art, my favorite beaches, my favorite kind of rain. We talked every day. He'd text me good morning before my alarm went off, and call me every night before bed. He never pushed for photos or got weird when I didn't reply right away. He told me about his job working in environmental design, about his mom who raised him and his younger brother alone, about his dreams of building a treehouse one day just to sleep under the stars. After 3 weeks, we met in person. He flew over on a Friday morning. I picked him up at the airport, nervous and smiling too much. He looked exactly like his pictures, maybe even better. Taller than I thought. Gentle eyes. A quiet kind of confidence that didn't need to prove itself. We spent the weekend walking through Paia, eating fish tacos at a roadside stand, and watching the waves crash at Ho'okipa. We didn't kiss until the last night, under a sky so clear it looked like it had been scrubbed clean. When he left, he kissed my forehead and said, "I'll be back soon." And then he wasn't. At first, I waited. Told myself maybe work got busy. Maybe he lost his phone. Maybe I did something wrong. I texted, called, emailed, even messaged his sister on Facebook. Nothing. Just silence. It was like he'd never existed. I didn't know how to grieve someone who disappeared. I cried for a week. Then I got angry. Then I got tired of being angry. And then I met David. It was accidental. A comment on a local artist's Instagram page. He had replied to mine with a joke about the paint color I mentioned, and I laughed out loud. I clicked on his profile, lots of beach shots, cooking experiments, and hiking trails I didn't recognize. I followed him. He followed back. And then we started talking. David wasn't like John. He didn't say all the right things. He didn't call every morning. Sometimes he even forgot to reply. But he was present. Real. He'd send me dumb memes when I was sad and ask about my paintings even when I didn't post them. He never flirted, not really. But he was always there. One night, I told him about John. I didn't plan to. It just slipped out between stories about bad dates and worse exes. I told him everything, how John made me feel safe, then vanished without a trace. How I still checked his old profiles hoping for a sign. How I felt like I'd been ghosted by a ghost. David didn't say much. Just, that really sucks, and you didn't deserve that. And somehow that was enough. We started meeting in person. Beach picnics. Farmers markets. Once he even came to one of my art shows and bought a tiny canvas I was embarrassed to display. We stayed in this weird limbo for a while, not quite dating, not quite just friends. But it was good. It was warm. Then one night, he kissed me. It was after we watched some terrible horror movie at his place. I was laughing at the ending, and he just leaned over and kissed me like he'd been waiting to do it for months. I kissed him back. I didn't stop smiling for 3 days. We took it slow. No big declarations. No promises. Just moments. Quiet dinners. Walks at dusk. Painting while he cooked in the background. It was the kind of love that didn't need fixing or fireworks. Just two people choosing each other, every day. Until John came back. It started with a message. "Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I stared at it for 5 minutes without breathing. He said he had gone through something personal. That he couldn't talk about it then, but he regretted disappearing. That he missed me. Thought about me every day. That he was ready now. I didn't reply. The next day, I got another message. "I saw you posted a painting. It's beautiful. I always told you your work should be in a museum." Then he started liking my old photos, commenting on stories, sending voice notes. I told David. He didn't get mad. Just asked, "Do you want to talk to him?" "No," I said. But John didn't stop. He started showing up. Once at the coffee shop I go to on Wednesdays. Another time outside the gallery I volunteer at. He never came inside. Just stood across the street, watching. David started walking me to my car. Staying over more. Keeping an eye out. One night, I found a note slipped under my door. "You were mine first." That night, David called the police. They said there wasn't much they could do unless John made a direct threat. They took a report. Told us to keep documenting everything. But it didn't stop. He kept messaging. Kept showing up. Once, I caught him standing outside my window. I closed the curtains and sat in the dark for hours. David was furious. He bought cameras, changed my locks, started parking across the street to watch at night. Then came the night it all boiled over. We were walking back from dinner, just a short walk from my place. I was holding David's hand, laughing about something neither of us would remember later. And then we saw him, John, standing in the middle of the sidewalk. He looked different, thinner, eyes wild. He said my name. David stepped in front of me. "Leave," he said. John looked at me. "You don't have to be afraid of me." But I was. David told him again to go. This time John stepped forward. That was when David pushed him back. John lunged. They fought. Fists. Shouting. I screamed. Someone called the cops. A neighbor pulled me away while David pinned John to the ground. When the police came, they arrested John. He had a knife in his pocket. David's lip was split, his knuckles bruised. But he was okay. I wasn't. Not for a long time. I filed a restraining order. John violated it once, then disappeared again. This time for good. David stayed. He never asked me to be okay. Never rushed me. Just stayed. Eventually I painted again. Eventually I laughed again. Eventually I said I love you and meant it. This was my first experience of someone using dirty revenge images and videos against me. Let me back up. My name is Noor, and I live in Missoula, Montana. It's surrounded by mountains that look like they've been watching people make the same mistakes for centuries. I came here for grad school and stayed because I didn't have a better reason to leave. I've always been cautious online. Maybe it's because I grew up with immigrant parents who thought every stranger on the internet was a scam artist or a predator. My mom used to say, "Don't show your face on your phone. They can steal your soul with a camera." I laughed back then. I don't anymore. The story I'm about to tell isn't something I've ever shared publicly. Not because I'm embarrassed, though I was for a long time, but because every time I think about it, I feel like I'm peeling off a scab that hasn't healed right. But maybe it's time. It started with a comment on a Reddit thread. I used to post on a small art subreddit. Nothing big, just watercolors, sketches, the occasional digital piece. One day, I got a message from someone named Khalid from the desert. He complimented my color palette and asked if I'd ever considered animation. I said no, but we kept talking. He told me his name was actually Elias. He was from Tucson, Arizona, and worked in digital media. Said he loved indie games and hated social media. He talked about art with this kind of reverence I hadn't seen in a long time. We moved from Reddit to Instagram, then to Discord. By the end of the second week, we were video calling every night. He was handsome in a quiet way. Curly hair, soft eyes, always in a hoodie. He spoke with this calm, slow voice that made me feel like I could say anything. We talked about everything: music, politics, religion, trauma, family. He told me he was estranged from his parents, that he'd been through some stuff, that he had trouble with trust. I should have seen the irony in that. He said he was looking for someone real, and I believed him because I was too tired not to. We called each other boyfriend and girlfriend after a month. It felt fast, but not rushed. I'd never had a long-distance relationship before, but it didn't feel like a problem. I liked the space. I liked the mystery. I liked the idea of someone who wanted me but couldn't touch me. We sent each other gifts. He mailed me a handmade leather-bound journal with my initials stamped into the spine. I sent him a hoodie I'd had since high school that still smelled like lavender detergent. He said he slept in it every night. Sometimes during our calls, things would get intimate. It felt natural, consensual, like we were both building something private and sacred. I trusted him. That trust shattered 6 months in. One morning, I woke up to a dozen messages from my friend Jaya. "Call me. Now." I FaceTimed her half awake. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I think so." Her face looked pale. "Have you been on Twitter?" "No, why?" She didn't answer. Just dropped a link in our chat. I clicked it. My entire body went cold. It was a post from an account I didn't recognize. The caption said, "Be careful who you fall for. They might fall for someone else too." Attached were screenshots, pixelated, grainy, but still unmistakable. A clip of me topless, laughing at something Elias had said during one of our video calls. Another of me lying on my bed in boxers and a tank top, eyes closed, mouth slightly open. Private moments. Intimate ones. I wanted to vomit. The account had tagged me. I screamed. Literally screamed. Dropped my phone and curled up on the floor. I don't remember much of that day. I reported the post. So did Jaya. So did dozens of people she rallied to help. But it was already up, already shared, already saved, already seen. I messaged Elias. No response. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I emailed him. Nothing. The account disappeared the next day. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. For weeks, I was afraid to leave my apartment. I didn't eat. Barely slept. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. I had nightmares of my professors seeing the images. My classmates. My family. My parents never found out. At least, I don't think they did. I couldn't bear to tell them. I tried contacting a lawyer. They said unless I could prove it was him who leaked the files, there wasn't much they could do. And because I hadn't saved the original call videos, I couldn't even prove when they were recorded, or that I hadn't consented to their release. Revenge porn, they called it. But it didn't feel like revenge. What had I done to deserve it? It felt like betrayal. Like theft. Like being skinned alive. I deleted all my accounts. Every one. Instagram. Reddit. Discord. Even Etsy, where I sold my art. I couldn't bear the idea of someone finding me again. I moved apartments. Cut my hair. Changed phone numbers. I became someone else. At least, I tried. But the worst part wasn't the violation. The worst part was the silence. Elias never apologized. Never explained. Never showed his face again. He vanished, as if he'd never existed. Sometimes, I wondered if I'd hallucinated the whole relationship. If I'd conjured him out of loneliness, and this was just the price I paid for believing too hard. But the hoodie was still in my closet. The journal still on my shelf. His fingerprints all over my life. Eventually, I started creating again. Not for others. Not to post. Just for me. I painted a series called Ghosts with Teeth. Each one was a different version of Elias, smiling, snarling, silent. I burned the first one. Kept the rest. Art helped. So did therapy. So did time. So did Jaya. One night, months later, she sent me a message with a screenshot. It was a Reddit post from a gaming forum. A user had posted about being catfished by someone named Elias who had asked for nudes, and then ghosted them. The username was eerily familiar, Desert Khaled 89. I didn't cry. I just blocked the page and went back to painting. Because by then, I had learned something important. Scars don't go away, but they stop bleeding. And privacy isn't about hiding. It's about choosing who's allowed to see you. I'm still choosing. Carefully. Quietly. But with my whole heart. My name's Rami, and I live in a place most people can't point out on a map, Pocatello, Idaho. It's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here. I'd always told myself I liked the quiet, but after years of coming home to flickering lights and the echo of my own footsteps, I started to wonder if that silence wasn't slowly hollowing me out. I was 28 when I downloaded the app Meet Fun. Not Tinder, not Bumble, something smaller, maybe more desperate. I didn't have high hopes. I wasn't looking for a whirlwind romance or some storybook ending. I just wanted someone to talk to. Someone to sit next to on the couch. Someone to say goodnight to. That's how I met Priya. She was from Spokane originally, but said she had gotten sick of the city and wanted to try life at a slower pace. Her photos were soft and warm, sunlight through trees, her laughing in a yellow hoodie, a close-up of her holding a cup of coffee with chipped nail polish. She had this charm in her messages, like she was always halfway through a thought, distracted but honest. We messaged for a week straight, late into the night, long paragraphs and voice notes. I told her about my job at the local print shop. She told me she'd been freelancing, writing, design, whatever kept her afloat. She said she'd been couch surfing for a while, looking for a place to settle and start fresh. I didn't think twice when I offered her my couch. She arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember that because it was snowing and her shoes were soaked through. She was smaller in person, with dark circles under her eyes and a backpack that looked like it had been through hell. But her smile was the same. That crooked, sleepy grin. "This is temporary," she had said, hands wrapped around the mug I gave her. "Just while I figure things out. But temporary has a way of stretching." The first week was fine. We watched movies, cooked together, even walked to the gas station for late-night snacks. I hadn't felt that kind of closeness in years. She laughed at my dumb jokes and asked questions about my childhood. She talked about her mom and how they hadn't spoken in years. I started to feel protective, needed. By the second week, her stuff was in every room. Her clothes were in my closet, her makeup on my bathroom sink, And without me even realizing it, she had started sleeping in my bed. I didn't protest. I liked the warmth. But things started shifting. She began asking questions about my friends, who I spent time with, why I hadn't invited her to meet them. When I did, she'd pick fights with them over nothing, accusing them of being rude or fake. One by one, they stopped texting. She said they weren't good for me anyway. Said I deserved better. She installed a new lock on the front door, one she had the only key for. Claimed it was for safety. I didn't question it. I liked feeling safe. Soon, she started controlling when I went out. If I stayed late at work, she'd accuse me of avoiding her. If I went for a walk alone, she'd say I didn't want her around. Her moods changed fast, sweet one moment, furious the next. She'd cry and apologize, saying she didn't know why she acted that way, that she was just scared I'd leave. I didn't leave. I liked being wanted. Until I didn't. I remember the first time she hit me. It wasn't a punch or anything dramatic. She threw a glass. It missed, shattered against the wall. She screamed that I had ignored her texts, that I didn't care about her. I stood there, stunned, and just swept up the pieces. Afterward, she sobbed for hours. I held her until she slept. The next morning, she made pancakes. By then, my friends were ghosts. I hadn't seen my parents in months. She said they never liked her, said they judged her, and maybe they did, but I never got the chance to ask. I was trapped in my own home. Not chained, not locked in, but trapped all the same. Every day, I felt a little smaller, a little quieter. The apartment felt like it belonged to her now. Then came Lydia. She worked at the campus library. I met her when the printer jammed, and she called our shop. I went over to fix it. She was kind, bright, and had this calm energy. We talked while I worked. She mentioned her love of poetry. I told her I used to write once. She asked why I stopped. I didn't have an answer. We kept in touch. Professional at first, then coffee, then long talks in her car outside my building. She made me feel seen, like I still existed beyond Priya. Eventually, I told her everything. She didn't flinch. She just listened. When I finally told Priya I wanted her to leave, she laughed. "You think you can just throw me out?" she said, arms crossed. "After everything I've done for you?" I told her it wasn't working, that I needed space, that I wasn't happy. She broke down crying, then screaming, then crying again. She stayed for 3 more days, barely speaking. Then one morning, she was gone. No note. Just silence. I breathed for the first time in months. Lydia helped me clean the apartment. She brought candles, new towels, even a plant. We laughed. We kissed. It felt like my life was finally turning around. Then she asked me for a favor. Her parents lived in New Jersey, and she wanted to move back. Said she was done with Idaho. Said she missed home. She asked if I'd drive with her, help her move. I agreed. It felt like an adventure. We left at dawn. Her car was packed, and the road stretched out like possibility. We stopped in Wyoming, slept in the car, ate gas station food. It was messy and strange and kind of beautiful. We made it to her parents' place in Tom's River on a Thursday morning. Her mom hugged me like I was family. Her dad shook my hand a little too hard. We unloaded the car. Talked about making dinner. Lydia disappeared into the house for a while. I sat in the driveway watching the sunset. That was the last time I saw her. She never came back out. Her mom said she was tired. Her dad offered me a beer and told me I could crash on the couch. The next morning, they told me I needed to leave. "She's not ready for anything serious," her mom said. I stood there with my bag stunned. But I just drove her across the country. "She's grateful," her dad said, closing the door. I walked back to the motel down the road. My car was still in Idaho. I had $100 in my wallet and no idea what to do. I called Lydia's number. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I messaged her on every app. Silence. Eventually I stopped trying. I stayed in Tom's River for 2 weeks. Worked odd jobs. Saved enough to buy a bus ticket back home. A 3-day ride with strangers and rest stops. When I got back to Pocatello, the apartment felt haunted. I threw out Priya's leftover things. Washed the sheets. Deleted all the apps. Sometimes, I still check Lydia's Instagram. She hasn't blocked me, but she never posts. Priya messaged me once. Just one line. "Do you miss me yet?" I didn't reply. I've learned something since then, pal. Alright, Reddit, gather round, because I have another dating disaster story for you. At this point, I'm convinced the universe is playing some kind of sick joke on me. Like, "Oh, you think you're ready for love? Haha, let me just throw a few more curveballs your way. So, as usual, this all began with a guy who seemed perfect. His name was Ryan. We'd been chatting for about a week, and he suggested dinner at this super fancy restaurant downtown. You know, the kind of place with white tablecloths, waiters in suits, and menus that don't have prices on them, so you know everything costs your soul, and maybe your firstborn child. Normally, I'd be like, let's just hit a taco truck, keep it chill. But he insisted. And I thought, why not? I deserve a bougie night out. Spoiler, I did not deserve what was coming. Fast forward to date night. I spent an obscene amount of time getting ready. Hair, makeup, the whole shebang. I even wore heels, which anyone who knows me will tell you is basically a sign of the apocalypse. Ryan shows up looking amazing, like he could have stepped straight out of a GQ ad. He complimented my dress, opened the car door for me, and even made a little joke about how he hoped his tie wasn't too finance bro for my taste. Cute, right? We get to the restaurant, and it's everything you'd expect. Dim lighting, soft music, people sipping wine like they're auditioning for a rich people doing rich things commercial. I'm trying not to feel out of place because, let's be real, I'm more of a bottomless mimosas at brunch girl than a $1.60 entree girl. But Ryan is being so sweet and charming, and I'm starting to think, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe I've finally found a guy who doesn't suck. And then, we're halfway through our meal. He ordered some kind of steak that was so rare I'm pretty sure it mooed when the waiter set it down, and I went for the pasta because carbs are my love language when it happens. Ryan takes a bite of his steak, and suddenly he gets this look on his face like he just realized he forgot to turn off the oven at home. His eyes go wide, he clutches his throat, and he starts making these weird choking noises. At first, I thought he was joking. Like, haha, good one, Ryan. You're pretending to choke for attention, classic first date humor. But then he starts full-on panicking, and I realize, oh my god, he's not kidding. He's actually choking. Now, I'd like to think I'm a calm, collected person in a crisis. I'm not. I'm absolutely not. My brain immediately went into full-blown chaos mode. People at nearby tables were starting to notice, and I could see the judgment in their eyes. Like, oh, look at her date making a scene. How embarrassing. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking, what do I do? Do I yell for help? Do I just hit him on the back? Is that even a thing? Finally, I remember something about the Heimlich maneuver from a first aid class I took in high school. Shout out to Mrs. Peterson, wherever you are. So I jump out of my chair, run over to Ryan, and get this, YLL, I got this, in the middle of the restaurant. Because apparently in my panic, I thought I was auditioning for an action movie. I wrap my arms around him and start doing the Heimlich, which, let me tell you, is not as graceful as it looks in movies. First of all, Ryan is like 6 feet 3 inches and built like a linebacker, while I'm 5 feet 4 inches on a good day. So I'm basically hopping up and down behind him, trying to get enough leverage to squeeze his torso. Second, I don't think I was doing it right because nothing was happening. Instead, he was just making these awful wheezing noises while I grunted like I was trying to wrestle a bear. At one point, I lost my footing and almost tipped both of us over into the table next to us. This poor older couple was just trying to enjoy their lobster bisque, and suddenly, they have front row seats to what I can only describe as a physical comedy routine gone horribly wrong. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, but was probably like 30 seconds, Ryan coughs up this massive chunk of steak. It lands on the floor with an audible splat, and everyone in the restaurant collectively gasps. I'm standing there, red-faced and sweaty, while Ryan leans on the table, gasping for air like he just ran a marathon. The waiter comes over with a glass of water, and someone at another table actually starts clapping. Clapping, like I just performed a magic trick or something. Once Ryan catches his breath, he looks up at me with tears in his eyes from the choking, not because he was touched by my heroics, and says, "Wow, that was really embarrassing." You don't say, Ryan. You don't say. The rest of the meal was awkward, to say the least. He kept apologizing, and I kept insisting it was fine, but let's be real, there's no coming back from something like that. Every time I looked at him, all I could think about was the image of that steak chunk flying out of his mouth like a meat missile. After dinner, he offered to walk me to my car, but I made up some excuse about needing to get up early the next day. I mean, what was I supposed to do? Kiss him goodnight, and pretend I didn't just have my arms wrapped around his abdomen while he hacked up half a cow? No thanks. He texted me later that night to thank me for saving his life, his words, not mine, and asked if I wanted to go out again. I haven't responded yet. I mean, do I really want to date a guy who can't even chew his food properly? What if next time it's like sushi or bread or something? Am I supposed to just carry a Heimlich manual in my purse from now on? Anyway, that's the story of how I became a reluctant hero and ruined any chance of feeling sexy on a first date. Thanks for letting me vent. I'm gonna go eat some ice cream and rethink all my life choices now. My name is Joel, and a few years ago I moved to Butte, Montana. You've probably never been there, and that's fine. Most people haven't. It's an old mining town with hills that seem to fold into each other like a forgotten map. I came out here for a fresh start, after a breakup, after a job I couldn't stand after my dad passed. I told myself that solitude would be healing, that if I could just get away from the noise, I'd figure out who I was supposed to be. I didn't expect loneliness to feel louder than traffic. It was early winter when I tried online dating. Snow was already collecting on the rooftops, and the sky looked like it had been drained of color. I downloaded an app called Kindred. It was one of those that promised genuine connection. I was skeptical, but I had nothing else going on besides microwaving frozen dinners and watching deer walk past my window. That's when I met Samantha. Her profile photo was simple. Her smiling in a flannel, auburn hair tied back, standing in front of what looked like an old barn. Her eyes were sharp, but not cold. Her bio just said, homesteader, reader, and proud owner of 5 pigs. Looking for someone honest. We hit it off fast. She was funny in a dry way, the kind of person who doesn't laugh at her own jokes but leaves you chuckling hours later. We talked about books, about old movies, about how modern life felt like a performance nobody asked to audition for. She said she lived about an hour outside of town, near a place called Wise River. Said she had a little farmhouse and raised pigs, chickens, and a few goats. She didn't have social media, too much noise, but she sent me pictures of her animals, her homemade bread, even her snow-covered porch. After 2 weeks of messaging, she invited me out to her place. I was hesitant, of course. I barely knew her. But she was charming, and I was lonely, and something about her felt sincere. Besides, she was the one who suggested I bring a friend along if I was nervous. That made me trust her. I didn't bring a friend. I drove out on a Friday afternoon. The mountains were dusted in snow, and the road twisted like it couldn't make up its mind. Her directions were clear, past the old sawmill, right at the fork with the rusted mailbox, second gravel road on the left. Her farmhouse came into view just as the sun was beginning to fall behind the hills. It was old but well kept, painted a soft green with white trim. A split-rail fence circled the property. I saw the pigs before I saw her, 5 of them, enormous and pink, rooting around in a paddock behind the house. Samantha stepped out onto the porch, waving. "Joel," she called. I nodded, trying not to slip on the icy path as I walked toward her. She greeted me with a hug, not too tight, just enough to feel real. "Come in," she said. "Dinner's almost ready." The inside of the house was warm and rustic. Wood-burning stove, woven rugs, bookshelves lined with everything from cookbooks to horror novels. Something smelled incredible, garlic, rosemary, maybe bacon? We talked more over dinner. She poured red wine into mismatched mugs and told me about her family, how her parents had moved to Oregon and left the farm to her and her sister, how she dropped out of college because she preferred animals to people. I told her about my dad, about the city, about how I came to Montana looking for silence and found too much of it. "I get that," she said. "Out here, you learn to live with your own thoughts. Some people can't." After dinner, we sat by the fire. She showed me some photos from when she was a kid, her with a baby goat, her sister holding a chicken like a trophy. She didn't talk much about her sister, though. Just said she'd moved away last year, and they hadn't spoken since. I stayed until about 10:30. I told her I'd head back to Butte, thanked her for the meal, and she walked me to the door. "You should come for breakfast tomorrow," she said. "I make sourdough waffles. Best in the county." I smiled. "Sure. What time?" "Come around 9. When I got home, I felt good. Not just good, hopeful. Like maybe, just maybe, this place wasn't a mistake. I woke up the next morning to a text. "Waffles are on. Bring your appetite." The drive out was easier the second time. Less snow. I even brought some coffee from a shop in town as a thank you. When I arrived, the house looked different. Dark. No lights on. No smoke from the chimney. I knocked once. No answer. I knocked again. Then the door creaked open. "Samantha?" I stepped inside. The air was cold. Still. Too quiet. I walked into the kitchen. The table was set, 2 plates, 2 mugs, a bowl of syrup, but no food. Then I heard something. Footsteps. Bare slow. Upstairs. Samantha? I called again. No answer. I should have left, but I didn't. Instead, I crept up the staircase, heart pounding. The hallway smelled like earth and something metallic. When I reached the top, a door at the end of the hall was open. Inside, I saw Samantha. She was standing by the window, holding something in her hand. A syringe. She turned slowly. "You came back," she said softly. I took a step back. "What's going on?" I asked. "You looked tired last night," she said. "I thought maybe you'd want to stay a little longer." I backed into the hallway. That's when I heard the door downstairs open and slam shut. Then a voice, sharp, urgent. "Sammy, what did you do?" Another woman appeared in the hallway. She looked like Samantha but older, taller. Her hair was a mess, her eyes wild with panic. "Get out," she said to me. "Now." I ran. Downstairs, through the kitchen, out the front door. I didn't stop until I reached my car. As I fumbled for my keys, I heard shouting behind me. The sisters arguing. Then silence. I drove straight to the police station in Butte. I told them everything. They went out that afternoon. They found the syringe. Found restraints hidden under the guest bed. Found a list of names in Samantha's handwriting, mine included. And behind the house, they found the pigs. And a pit, with bones. Samantha was arrested that night. Her sister, Elise, told the police she'd come back to check on her after months of silence. Said she had a feeling something was wrong. She wasn't wrong. Samantha had lured at least 2 men to the farm before me. One had vanished. The other had been reported missing, but never found. They suspect the pigs were part of it. They don't say it out loud, but they suspect. I stopped dating after that. Stopped trusting warm smiles and shared meals. But I never forgot Elise. She saved my life. And every now and then I think about the moment she shouted, "What did you do?" Like even she didn't know how far her sister had fallen. And sometimes, when I'm alone in the dark, I wonder, what if I'd stayed for waffles? Cheryl was nice. Sociable, vivacious, spirited, intelligent, bubbly, fun. I was stunned she didn't shoot me down when I asked her out. We exchanged numbers and talked a few times. This was just when texting was still a passing fad in my region. We had a good rapport, good connection, we clicked, we meshed. Because she didn't know me well, she worked in the bank I used. I suggested for her peace of mind that we meet at a local restaurant we both liked. I made it clear that I'm old school. Since I'd asked her out, I'd take care of paying. Ask her pays. Great. Meet you there at 5. That worked for me, and we sort of let silence fill the next day and the next up until date time. Build a little tension. Absence makes the fart go Honda and whatnot. I went all out. New shirt, polished the boots, nice jeans, got a hair trim, stropped up my straight razor for the ultimate shave, the works. Got in my truck looking good, feeling like I looked damn good. I pop a mint, chew it, swish, swallow. Pop another, let it start dissolving. A dude at work bought a brand new Mustang, but I got a date with the sexiest woman in my town, so I win. I got my game on. Pulled into the parking lot at 4:50. Her car was sitting there. Hot damn. I love it when the other person on the date shows up. Lock up the truck, go inside. Scope around and spot her in a back booth. Ooh, romantical. I take a step farther and notice this other go-troper is sitting in the booth, on her side, talking with her. Cool. I walk on and greet her, a handshake. I was hoping for something like a cheek kiss, but oh well. I'd love you to meet Randy, not his real name either. I hope you don't mind. Such a wild coincidence that he was having dinner here tonight of all nights. We attended university together and haven't seen each other in, what is it, 6, 7 years? Oh yes, at least. And I have missed your warm smile. Bear in mind, gentle reader, I know that there's a great chance this was her seeing how I handled bullshit. So, I made my mind up then and there. I'm gonna just let it ride. I'm gonna be graceful about it. This is a date, but she's not my girlfriend officially, so it's cool. Easiest way to blow this would be to get possessive or territorial about this. It's a free world, she's a free woman. I'm not going to assert myself. Our connection will make itself evident. Waiter came to take our drink orders. He slid in alongside us and ordered with us. Cool. It's a Coke, no big. We exchanged a nice little convo over our drinks, and when the waiter arrived, Randy asked Cheryl to advise him on what was good, what she liked. He ordered, then she ordered, then I ordered. As the date progressed, I started to notice something. Early, during the drinks, her attention was split maybe 60-40 favoring him. However, as the date progressed further, she started spending less time with her head facing forward and a lot more with her head turned to the side, toward him. There was a considerable chunk toward the end when she didn't look at me even once, and neither did he. 10, then 15, then 20 minutes. Laser focus on each other. You ever feel like the world is a black tie wedding, and you're wearing a Led Zeppelin t-shirt and ratty Levi's? The waiter had brought the check. I palmed it and excused myself to the washroom. They hardly noticed. Not terribly surprised by that. I paid $98.56, dinner x3. I'd intended, after dinner, to go see a movie with her. I handed the waiter the $50 I'd intended to blow for the flick and left. Thank the goddesses for liquor stores that are open late, so pathetic losers like me can buy Crown Royal and Grey Goose after hours. Straight 50 to 50 isn't the most sophisticated cocktail, but it's efficient for the task at hand. She left me a voicemail a couple days later, letting me know that she and Randy were going to rekindle their romance. Later this year, they'll celebrate their 7th wedding anniversary. Yay! This really cute chick I met on Whisper, which probably was a bad idea in and of itself. We'll call her M. For those who don't know, Whisper is an anonymous confession app where you can post your confessions in your local community and possibly the world can comment and message you about them. Somehow I found multiple dates on Whisper. I'm pretty happy I left that part of my dating life in the past. Anyway, I wrote something sappy like, "I wish I had someone to head to beach with," and decided to respond. She was super cute, had brown curly frizzy hair, and I was smitten. We talked for a week or so, and then scheduled a Saturday to go to the beach together. I drive to her house and pick her up. She asks me to park few houses down the street, which I do without thinking. We went to the beach, made out, played in the water, flirted, and had a great time. She recommended going to a local bar, and we did, and we flirted and played games together. Honestly, up until this point, the night was fantastic, one of my better dates. However, M had been getting calls from her mother. Apparently, she was out beyond curfew. I was about 26 years old at this time, and M was herself 25. It was only about 10 p.m., but Mom was not happy with M or me. M asks me to drop her off a little down the street so that she can walk up to her house. I agree to do it because she asks. I watch her walk up to the front door and then drive off. I drive 30 minutes home, and M calls me. Her mother refuses to let her inside the house until I come and see her. I'm dumbfounded, but she sounds worried, and I do blame myself. Even though M never told about a curfew, nor how controlling her mom was. I drive 30 minutes back. At this point, I'm pretty frustrated. We had a long day out together, and I just drove an hour home and back. I park a ways down the street and walk up to their house. M and her mother are standing on the porch. Her mom apparently only speaks Spanish, so M acts as a translator as her mother twists her face and looks at me. She asks me what we did together today. M texted me on the way to say nothing about the drinking. So I tell her we just went to the beach and hung out. We had a perfectly innocent day. Her mother keeps grilling me through M as a translator and lets me know her daughter has a problem. She asks if we slept together. We did not, but that wasn't her business. Each question pisses me off a little bit more. My answers get shorter and colder as I start staring daggers back at her. M's mom calls her sister out at some point and sends up the street for some reason in the direction of my car. I don't know why, but this shit is too much for me. I'm over it. I began marching down the street as I see her sister taking pictures of my license plates for who knows what reason. M runs down the street after me, tells me how sorry she is, and then asks, get this, if we can make out in front of her mom right now just to piss her off more. You know, up until this point, I would say this situation was salvageable. Mom cares about her daughter and might have a drinking problem, okay? I can work around a drinking problem, and she wouldn't be the first girl I've dated with controlling parents. But this childish teenage rebellion bullshit coming from M herself? I was too through. I drove home for the last time that night. She texted me that she was sorry again the next morning. I blocked her on everything after that. It's a bummer too because M and I had a great time out together during the day, but I didn't know that our date was some act of rebellion or temporary escape from her mom. Where do I start? Sit back, folks, and enjoy the ride. Within the last year, I went to Virginia and met this girl on Facebook dating. Let's call her Maddie. I matched with Maddie and didn't think much of it. I match with girls all the time, and it never really ends up in a date. Partially because I'm kinda lazy about it, and partially because our schedules or our interests don't particularly match up, but anywho. So me and Maddie match, and we talk for a bit, but it's spotty. As in we send a few messages, and then hours upon hours go by, and we send a few more messages, so I was really thinking this was a dead end. Until about 2 nights later after we matched, I was in boxers laying in bed, probably about 10 minutes away from falling asleep, and she messaged me. She said something along the lines of, "What are you doing / come over" type of thing. So I knew exactly what to expect. Part of me was lazy and like who cares, and the other part was like I've been in Virginia for like 2 to 3 weeks now, and some female attention wouldn't be so bad. So I went her house. Prior to going, I did some digging and saw that she had lost a significant amount of weight, like over 100 pounds. Keep in mind this girl looks stunning, so I would have never known, but good for her, no big deal. So I get there and she comes outside, first thing out of her mouth is, "You're not $4 and ing me, just so you know." Which it's like 11:30 p.m., and it kind of turned me off because I thought this was understood. I mean, what else are we going to do? But okay, challenge accepted. So we small talk and I eventually work my way up to light kissing and some touching as she playfully and flirtatiously says, "Stop, you are not getting any tonight." Fast forward about an hour and she says, "Okay, fine, but at least drive somewhere else. I'm not about to do it in front of my dad's house." So we drive like 15 houses down and park. She gets in the back seat. Clothes come off of both of us, and immediately there's a ton of excess skin everywhere that was being held together by spandex from all the weight loss. Once again, not a big deal, good for her, just a little bit of a shocker. And then she sees me peering ever so intensely at her crotch because I could have sworn I saw a string, and she goes, "Oh crap, hold on." So I'm sitting in the back seat with my junk hanging out as she gets out of my car, waddles into someone's front yard, pops a squat, pulls the tampon out, flings it in their bushes, comes back in the car, lays down, and says, "Alright, I'm good, it was my last day anyway." Needless to say, I still went through with it. I don't know if you consider that a date, but I never saw Maddie again. She messaged me a few nights later to come over again, to which I didn't respond. Hope she's doing well. I couldn't decide if I should post this date story, or the one where I ended up eating bloody popcorn. So if you want to hear that one too, I guess let me know or upvote it or something. Idk. Cheers to Maddie. I was about 57 and hadn't dated since my teens. I'd left a 30-year marriage 8 years earlier. This story will be about 2 dates with 2 different men, both of whom I met on a dating site. I couldn't decide which date was worse. I will call the first man Clem. Clem was a retired math teacher, 69 years old. He lived about an hour away from me in the country. He'd once farmed his small farm with draft horses. I was interested in all things country, so I thought Clem and I might hit it off. Clem asked me to meet him several times at a golf course where he was working part-time. We had coffee and conversed. Then he asked me to accompany him as he drove his mobile home to a nearby lake where he intended to park it for a week. He said we would pick up supplies, cook out, then he would drive me back to my place. He would be pulling his car. He picked me up and drove me to his farm where he hooked the car up to the mobile home, and we set off for the lake. I don't recall the conversation, but on the way to the lake, I volunteered that I had not been sexually active for 8 years. Call me naive, but it never occurred to me that Clem had more plans than for just a cookout. He quickly detoured the mobile home to another of his properties, a country place where he had a barn with an apartment over the top. He went into the apartment and left me sitting in his mobile home for an hour. When he returned, he canceled our trip and took me home. It took me years to figure out that Clem was up in that apartment, on the internet, hunting down an emergency piece of ass. Alex was a retired professor, about the same age as Clem. He invited me to the symphony, a grand gesture for a first date. I didn't like for internet dates to know where I lived right away, so we met on a street blocks from my apartment. Once I was in his car, he informed he had Parkinson's disease, and that he hadn't told me for fear I wouldn't go out with him. I might have. I might not have, but I felt the choice should have been mine. My heart went out to him as the evening progressed, and I watched him navigate situations like getting stuck in the door to the theater and blocking traffic due to a seizure. He needed to take medication when he felt one coming on. I thought he was brave to do things like go to the symphony. Afterwards, we went for a drink. Then he asked me to come to his house to watch some stand-up comedy shows he had taped. I said just briefly as it was late. Once inside his foyer, he handed me a wad of cash. I said, "What is that for?" He said it was to compensate me for driving my car to meet him. I said no. He pushed the money at me. I said no. We settled in to watch a comedy show. I was counting the minutes, thinking 15, 20, and then I asked him to drive me to my car. I did not get out of there until 2 a.m. Every time I asked him to drive me to my car, he said he felt a seizure coming on, and he took his medication. Then he said we had to wait for it to take effect. Then he said the medication had worn off, and he couldn't drive. This routine was recycled for hours, as he struggled to get me into his bed. This is very long and overly detailed, but it's the only way I can convey how creepy this was. Having become recently single after a 2+ year relationship ended, I was encouraged by my parents to give the nice boy from church a chance as he was beginning to show interest in me. Keep in mind my family and I knew who he was, but did not know anything about him other than he seemed like a genuinely friendly person. I was not attracted to him in the slightest, but I figured if he was nice and we got along then maybe I should just give this a chance. I agreed, and he said he would come pick me up from my house, and we would go to the movie theater. He pulled up to the house and walked in, greeting me and my mother. We walked to his car, and on the ride to the theater that was about 30 minutes from my house, the conversation was normal, and it was moving along, nothing awkward, just a good conversation. However, the moment we stepped out of the car at the theater, everything changed. He demanded that I give him my hand, so we can walk in together that way. I thought it was odd, but I agreed to because what's the worst that holding hands can do? We walk inside, and as we are standing in line to buy tickets, he tells me to kiss him. I tell him absolutely not. I don't even really know him, and our date just begun. He was upset but let go of my hand and clung to my arm. We walk into the theater, and he immediately tells me that we are going to sit in the very back row. Although it was not a row, it was only 2 seats most likely there for those who were handicapped. I did not want to sit alone with him there as I was already uncomfortable, but I did anyways because I was nervous. The movie came on, and his hands creeped behind me, attempting to go on the inside down the back of my pants to touch my butt. I pushed his hands away, but then he moved them up over my shoulders, letting his hand dangle close to my breasts. I was so disgusted, I got up and told him to stop. A few minutes later, he gets up and tells me to follow him. He stops in the back of the theater and goes in for a kiss, grabbing my face violently, and I tell him no and I went to sit back down. These gross little shenanigans continued throughout the movie. Keep in mind, I had no cell phone at this time, so I couldn't call my mom or anyone to come pick me up. After the movie finished and we walked back to the car, it was just beginning to get dark and I asked him to drive me home. After telling me about how amazing of a night he has had so far, weirdo, he says he will drive me home. Well, instead of taking me home, he turns into a middle school and drives all the way to the back end of the school so that we can play on the tetherball courts. I thought that maybe he was trying to get us to play together to ease the tension he caused in the theater, but after playing tetherball with him for maybe 2 minutes, he says he is done playing and asked if I want to get in the back seat with him. I tell him absolutely not and that I need to get home. He ignored that, grabbing me from behind and pulling me towards himself. If that isn't bad enough, he starts singing. He starts signing the song Anna Sun by Walk the Moon. Don't ask me why because I could not tell you why. Not that it matters, but he sucks at singing, and I am at this point, horrified beyond doubt, because he is singing into my ear as he is holding me so tight to his body that I could not move. This continued on for about 15 minutes as he cycled through other songs he knew. I repeated I need to get home, and he agreed and we left. As he pulls into my driveway, I guess I hesitantly said I did not really know if I wanted to go on a second date. He floors it backwards out of the driveway and starts driving fast down the road. He begins raising his voice at me about how dare I waste his time, and how it seemed that I was having such a good time that he doesn't understand what could have went wrong. I know, what in the world? To get him to calm down, I told him that I would go on another date. He immediately smiled and stopped screaming, turned around and took me home. He rushed out of the car to open my door for me, and as I was standing up to get out of the car, he shoves his face in mine, absolutely slobbering my face, trying to kiss me. Again, I wanted to vomit. I walked inside and did not tell my parents what happened because I had not processed it yet myself. It does not end here yet, though. The next day, I had not heard from this guy until it was around 9 p.m. I checked my phone to see a message from him telling me that he is outside and to come out so that he can apologize to me for the night before. I stepped outside, not telling my parents because I guess I was dumb, and saw no one. It was pitch black out. I did not see him nor his car. I called out, "Hello," and heard nothing, so I turned around to walk in. As I walked away, I heard a whistle. I called out for an answer, but I got another whistle, and it was coming from behind a row of pine trees. I got very scared and began walking in, but he ran out from behind the trees to me and hugged me. He told me that he parked the car down the road and that he has something to show me in the back seat. At this point I was very scared and did not want to upset him, so I walked with him to his car. He opened the back doors and I went to the back seat and he crawled in too. He pulled out a picture that he had drawn of me and asked me what I thought of it. I lied and said I loved it, but I was incredibly uncomfortable. He then lays back on my lap, his head on my thighs, and starts saying how nice this is and how he wants a future with me. He then sits up, takes his shoes off, puts his feet on my legs, and asks me if I think he has big feet. Side note, his feet smelled like vinegar and I wanted to throw up. I was unbelievably uncomfortable and scared about what he was planning to do next, so I sternly told him to drive me back home now. He listened to me and drove me home, which surprised me. He again slobbered my face and said goodnight, acting as if his behavior is completely normal. He texted me for a few days after this, but I never responded. To my surprise, he gave up and I have not heard from him since. I know this entire story made not an ounce of sense, but this is exactly what happened and how he behaved. Why are people so creepy? I was also young, about 17 years old, so I did not handle this the way I should have either. I was very lucky he wasn't violent. Usually I don't mind bad dates, and I don't even mind crazy dates, but there is still one date failure that hurts. I met this girl on Bumble. Her profile was really sparse, there were only 2 selfie pictures and both looked somehow weird, but when we messaged we found out that we had a similar background, and after 30 minutes of messaging, we decided on a date on the next day. I didn't even know what she was doing, and she only had some minimal information about me. I had low expectations, but I liked going out, and the meeting was at my favorite bar. When I met her in real life I was shocked. The pictures didn't do her any justice. She looked gorgeous, was tall, had a beautiful smile, and was extremely kind and intelligent. She was working in education for young children, writing poems, and spent her youth at the same places as me. I was extremely confident and at my best this day. She was constantly laughing at my jokes and obviously enjoyed any minute with me. We talked the whole night until they kicked us out at 4 a.m. The time flew by so fast, I couldn't believe how late it was when we got out. I gave her a hug after the date before her bus arrived, but I felt that maybe I should have kissed her. I went happy home and couldn't believe how lucky I was to spend such a great evening with this wonderful human being. The next day I wrote her, and she wrote me that she had a great time as well, and we planned the second date. I thought that this time I would definitely give her a kiss when the moment is right. The second date was a disaster. We planned on going to a small market close to a castle, but when we met it was raining heavily. I picked her off of the nearest train station, and we walked together, but then I went the wrong way, and we spent 30 minutes walking through a sketchy area. I became confused and nervous, and after we finally arrived I realized that this was a really bad place for early dating. We barely had time to talk, walked confused through a place which was overcrowded, obviously pre-corona, and I lost my confidence and was stuttering and behaving like someone who has never been outside. Later on we went to a bar, and I was telling her the most boring stuff about work which probably would have even bored my colleagues. Even after all of this, she was still kind and gave me a chance. But in the end I urged her to dance with me on the street, which she obviously didn't like, and which made her uncomfortable. Then exactly the exact moment the bus arrived, I stopped her and tried to kiss her in the cringiest way. Not only did she miss the bus, because of me she also felt really uncomfortable and rejected my kiss attempt, which was really out of place. I felt like shot for 2 days, and I wrote her a long message and apologized for my behavior. She wrote me back a long message and told me among many things that I am a kind and wonderful man, but that she didn't feel the chemistry. I totally managed to both a perfect first date with the worst second date I can imagine, and I still cringe about my behavior and my decisions that day. Had I been more relaxed and casual like I usually am, and as confident as on the first date, this could have been a wonderful start to a promising relationship. But I don't regret it at all. Because of this experience I learned to be much more relaxed on dates, and this led to a wonderful relationship a couple months later. Another story to add: blind date with a doctor. He had said he finds dating hard as women lead him on, and then ghost him when they realize he works shifts. About 20 minutes into proper conversation, after an hour of waiting to be served at the bar, I realize I'm feeling zero chemistry. No maybe, absolutely nothing there. He wasn't bad looking or had a horrible personality, to that point. I just felt nada and didn't want to lead him on. So I said to him, I was enjoying his company and appreciated him meeting up with me in London. It was a 40-minute commute for us both. But I wasn't feeling anything romantic and didn't want to lead him on. But we got along fine, and as we had both traveled, I said I was happy to have a few drinks and chat as we had friends in common, and it would be nice to get along as friends. His response, "Oh, thank goodness, I was thinking the same." We stay at the bar alternating who is buying drinks, just soft drinks, and each order our own snacks. Body language and distance clearly in the acquaintance zone. It was pleasant. I start feeling funny, and know I have a migraine coming, and explain I need to leave and why. He says okay, but the second we get outside, he grabs my hand in a vice-like grip and insists on a riverside walk and starts literally dragging me along. I try and pull away, and even though we're in a crowded area, no one intervenes, but after I start saying I need to go, a few people stare. He then grabs me by the shoulders and turns me to face a street performer who is miming about us being on a date and in love, and the guy then stands behind me and holds me in place by resting his arms around my shoulders. He was super tall, with his arms practically choking me in a headlock, but could be construed as a hug to surrounding people. I bend one of his fingers back and escape to the station, and he's following me saying it's okay, I'm just reacting badly because of the migraine, and shouting to bystanders he's a doctor and looking after me. Literally as he's shouting that, a woman in front of me collapses, and a group of us go over to help her out. He is at that point nowhere to be found. Anyway, ambulance arrives and carts her off within probably 10 to 15 minutes. I look around, I don't see him, and I'm pissed he ran off rather than help, which doctors are obliged to do in the UK, and ironically her condition was his specialty. But relived, he's gone. As I enter the station and get on the downwards escalator, he reappears and stands on the step in front facing me, and gets really close, like his face an inch away from mine, saying he's going to see me home. I insist I'm good on my own. He does not need to do an hour round trip, and then his own commute. I sit down on the step and cover my face with my hands to get him out of my space. He still didn't get the hint. I got to the stage where I was literally shouting, "No, leave me alone," and he was playing them, "I'm a doctor and she's crazy because she's migraining" card. Finally, my medication kicks in with its glorious side effect, and I deliberately puke at him. He threatens to sue me for dry cleaning costs as his trousers got some splatter, but he finally left. He told mutual friends we were dating, and I was seeing him next week. I shared my version, including me texting him to never contact me again. Apparently the guys thought I was mean by rejecting him. They are no longer my friends. For context, my family is in a very fortunate position financially, and I would describe myself as upper middle class. This story happened a few years ago when I was at university. It was a fairly small university, so many of the students lived locally, in a generally very working class area. I also have a twin brother who goes to a different university nearby, who has a small part to play in this story. I had never really had much luck with dating due to having some pretty niche hobbies and interests, so it was hard to find people I can relate to and really click with, but I would always get on, and remain friends with people if things didn't work out. I ended up dating a few girls on the uni netball team. They all seemed nice, but again, it was clear we were not a great match. Because I stayed on good terms with everyone, I ended up spending a lot of time around the people I had previously dated, but just as friends. Consequently, most people on the netball team were familiar with me. Enter the greedy girl, Gigi. She was a bit of an outlier in the team and didn't speak much, so nobody knew much about her. One day, she comes up to me and asks me out on a date. This was a nice surprise as I was normally the one asking, so I said yes, as I had no reason to dislike her at this point. After I say yes, we chat for a bit, and she keeps trying to shoehorn into conversation the fact that she, like many others around here, doesn't have a lot of money. I didn't really think about it too much at the time, but in hindsight it was obvious. To keep the story short, I won't explain the dates. We went on 3 before I realized how greedy she was. All you guys need to know is that I paid for everything on every date, but I didn't mind doing this. We normally went out on weekends. One day I went to the library to get some work done. The desks have tall partitions between them for independent work, but whispering was still allowed in this area. Over the partition in front of me, I hear Gigi's voice whispering to a friend. I begin to stand up to say hi, but stop myself to listen to their conversation just before my head emerged over the top. She was talking about me, calling me things like a posh C*** and T. but saying she was going to let me take her on a few more dates because I took her to fancy bars and bought her expensive drinks. I thought about it and realized that she had always gone for the most expensive drinks on our dates so far, so I decided it was time for some revenge. I left the library without being seen. A few days later, I actually saw her driving a brand new BMW Z4, so she was clearly pretty damn rich herself. The best and fanciest bar in this town was owned by my best friend and her family. It was a small bar, but very high-end, with some of the drinks being over 15 pounds for a very small drink. Therefore, not many of the students went in, but if you were invited there on a date, it was a special one. I spoke to my friend, whose family owned the bar, and got her in on my plan for revenge, ensuring she would have my back if things went wrong. I was pretty paranoid about getting caught, because I planned on tricking Gigi into paying for everything that night, up to a total of the cost of all the previous dates combined, in excess of 250 pounds. To cover my tracks, I asked my twin brother if he wanted to go out with my friends to the pub, telling him my plan, and that I would give him some money if he went out dressed like me and with his hair styled the same. I also told him to take plenty of pictures with my friends, so I had an alibi. The night of the date came around. The bar was busy, but we managed to get a table. I immediately lied to her, saying I had forgotten my card, but if she paid I could transfer her the money later. She agreed. I had done this for real on the second date, and paid her back as soon as I got home, so she knew I was reliable. I told her to stay sat down and save the table, while I went and ordered drinks and the biggest and fanciest tapas plate on the menu from the bar. My friend, pretending she didn't know me as agreed, served me the drinks. Gigi seemed to be in disbelief of my generosity and pretended that she was having one of the best dates of her life. I also pretended to be enjoying it, continuing to buy expensive food and drink until I had nearly spent the target 250 pounds on her card. The dessert section of the bar's menu is titled Just Desserts. Finding this oddly appropriate for my revenge, I asked her if she wanted her just desserts, pointing at the menu. She laughed and said yes, so I went up to the bar once again with her card and ordered 2 of the super deluxe chocolate fudge cakes. I told my friend to keep one for herself for when her shift ends, and if they could write F*CKU on top of Gigi's. The bar has candles with letters on for birthdays, etc. I then returned to Gigi, handed her card back, and told her I was going to the gents' bathroom. I left, never repaid the money, and went to join my mates and brother at the pub. Gigi confronted me in front of the netball team a few days later, but I just acted confused, telling her I was out with my friends that night, and showed her the selfies my brother had taken with my mates when she tried to argue with me. The entire netball team took my side and stopped speaking to her. Gigi has since left the netball team, and from what I can tell I don't think she has many friends now. I had a fantastic night of revenge with fine food and drink at her expense. My friend got a fudge cake, my brother got some money, and all the lads got to go to the pub. All in all, I found it super satisfying, as everyone but Gigi was happy. I was 17 when this happened. He had told me he was 19. It's also not illegal in my state. I met him through a friend of mine. I saw him on her friend's Snapchat story while I was using her phone, asked for his snap, and he added me back, the whole process. I disclosed that I was 17, and he said he was fine with it seeing as he had just turned 19. Anyway, we talked for a few days, and I learned that he lived not too far away from me, worked at a mall nearby, and that we had a lot in common. We planned our date for a Tuesday, which was strange, and he drove me to a theater that's about 40 minutes from my house and an hour from his. Where I live there are 2 much closer theaters, so this was pretty weird. We get there, and I ask him if we can get snacks. He says no, that he plans to go to dinner afterwards. I noticed as he bought the tickets that they were only $12 for both of us combined, but it didn't really matter at the time. It will. That we saw a movie I had really no interest in seeing, but I guess it was alright. He tried to do the old arm around the shoulders trick, which I quickly shut down and asked him politely not to do again. He seemed alright and apologetic. Anyway, we leave the theater, and he asks where I would like to eat. I say Chili's. So we go to Chili's. I, at the time, had been working at McDonald's and was very excited when I got a notification on my phone as we drove that said my first paycheck had been deposited into my account, so I stupidly said out loud, "Just got paid." That was my downfall. We get there, and the first thing he immediately does is order 4 appetizers, and to my horror, orders a drink, and when the waitress cards him, he hands her a horizontal ID. I don't know if other states are the same, but in mine you get a vertical ID until you're 21 and a horizontal one when you're older than 21. I asked him if that was a fake ID, and he just said no. I'm 23. I used to be a real pushover kind of girl. Also, the time was nearing 11, and I was worried my parents would have been mad at me if I called them to pick me up, seeing as the restaurant was a good 30 minutes from my house. I was also scared that he would get angry or violent if I tried to leave, so I didn't try. He gets his drink and orders 2 more throughout the night, on top of a steak, a bunch of sides, and of course 2 desserts. All I had was a burger that I didn't even finish because I was so nervous that I was on a date with an adult 6 years older than I who'd also been drinking. Anyway, the waitress comes around and she nicely hands him the bill and says, "When you're ready." Without hesitation, he grabs it, hands it to me with a smile, and says, "You got this, right?" I didn't even know what to do. I was so meek and easily manipulated that I just put my card in the billfold. I left a $7 tip for the woman, so the bill came out to about $87. We got in the car, he drove me home, tried to give me a kiss, and said, "Let's do this again." I blocked his number as I walked down my driveway. Flash forward to this past summer when I was 18, at the shopping mall he worked at with my friends. Due to some injuries in my legs, I had gained a little bit of weight, but nothing major. We were in the store he worked at, which is a pretty big store. I had forgotten he had worked there until I saw his smug ass, and it was clear he remembered me. He came up to us with a shit-eating grin and asked us if there was anything he could help us with. We didn't need help, just looking around, but he made sure to say to me, "Wow, you've fluffed out since the last time I've seen you. You look good." Now, I'm a curvy girl. I get this sort of thing a lot. But on top of the bill, the drinking, the lying and the creepiness that he thought a date with a 17-year-old was acceptable, I had had it. I just smiled politely at him, asked my friends if they wanted to go to another store, and as we left I called the store and demanded to speak to the manager. I was pretending to sob, saying how he had made fun of my body, acted poorly to my friends and I, that I would never be stepping foot in the store again, and that I wanted corporate's number to lodge a complaint for harassment. You know, the typical over-exaggerated bullshit. I didn't throw in any sexual harassment terms, because I'm not going to accuse anyone of being something like that, but I was making a scene. I lodged a complaint with 5 different department leaders at the corporate call center and told them I felt uncomfortable shopping in any of their stores ever again because of the treatment I had been subjected to, blah blah blah. 6 days later, hanging out with the friend who set me up with him, she asks me if I remember him. Yes I do, I say. She shows me his Snapchat story. All black, white text, "Cannot believe I just got fired after 2.5 years for no reason." Turns out his company was an at-will employer. They didn't even have to give him a reason for firing him. He probably doesn't even know it was me. Well, he might now, but that's fine. He was working his way through film school and had to pick up an overnight job at a fast food place to make ends meet. My revenge came in 2 parts, one petty and one pro. I should warn that the following contains graphic details of various kinds of bodily harm. If that bothers you, skip the background and just read the revenge. The backstory. When I was 19 or 20, I'm 25 now, I met a guy on Tinder. Let's call him Brad. Brad and I didn't get off to a great start, but I had no idea how bad it was going to get. At first it just seemed we were incompatible, as he was pushy and rude, and I take no crap. If it had stopped there, I wouldn't be here right now. But it didn't stop there. Once I made it clear that I found Brad repulsive and wanted nothing to do with him, his messages took a turn. He threatened to stalk, kidnap, and murder me, along with some gory details. Particularly disturbing was his explicit desire to strangle me and watch the life leave my eyes. He also managed to find my home address, 3 hours away from the city we were in, and threatened to come find me. As a side note, it was my dad's house, and some small part of me wanted to see exactly how badly it would turn out for him if he showed up there. Of course, I warned my dad and gave him a picture of the guy. I also took screenshots of everything he sent me. The petty. Being a young woman with no idea whether this madman would actually go to lengths to find me, I called the cops. When they came, they looked at the messages, told me it constituted terroristic threat, but also told me there wasn't much they could do unless Brad actually showed up. They did take down his details, including where he worked, which is listed in his bio. This will be important later. From what I understand, the cops went to Brad's workplace to speak to him, and he refused, so they left. Nothing ever came of it. For the second part of the petty, I found his Facebook, again, Don't put your freaking workplace on all of your social media. I snooped around and managed to find a couple of his family members. I sent them all the screenshots along with an explanation of what happened. I didn't hear back for a few days, but when I did it was from Brad's mom. She apologized profusely on behalf of her son and told me they were driving in from Brad's hometown 3 states away to confront him. She asked me not to warn him of this in advance, and obviously I agreed. I don't know what became of this, but I hope he got a good, southern-style ass whoopin'. Now for the pro. A few years later, when Brad probably thought he was in the clear, something jogged my memory of what he did, and I decided it was time for him to face some actual consequences. I made a Facebook post including his picture and bio, all of the screenshots, and a message warning people in our area and asking them to share it around so other women would know what they were dealing with. 2 days later, Facebook took it down, but the damage had already been done. 3K shares and many messages later, all of that information had made its way to his company's Facebook page. From what I understand, they were absolutely flooded with messages about Brad and his behavior. They responded with a stock message about how they were dealing with it according to their policies. This was disheartening, as I assumed they were just going to blow it off. By this point, Brad had been working for them for at least 4 years. However, I soon learned this was not the case. Several women from his company messaged me to thank me for coming forward and exposing the kind of person they were working with. It was through one of these women that I found out what happened to good old Brad. He was called into a meeting with his boss, HR, and the CEO of the company. As a side note, this is a multinational company, and the CEO is a woman. They did not take the situation lightly. Within 2 days of posting on Facebook, Brad had been fired and escorted off the premises by armed security. In the end, Brad got what he deserved, and now he has a massive blank spot on his resume, as this company was his first job out of college, and he can no longer get a letter of recommendation from them. As far as what became of him, I don't know. I never heard from him again, though I did get a message from his grandma telling me that what I was doing is illegal, LOL. Honestly not proud of this. Using a throwaway because I feel like a piece of shit about it. Also, the whole experience was terrible, so this one is going to be a long one. Started talking to a girl on a dating app. Things were going okay. We decided it would be fun to meet too, but she didn't drive. If I recall, she was 19, so kind of a red flag, and she figured I could drive to her place. I agree, and then I learned she lives about an hour away north of me. I live in a small city. You could almost even not call it a city. But she lived on a town north of the biggest city in my state, which I am always nervous to drive in because city driving is so crazy to me. I do it anyways because interested in girl, and the drive obviously was stressful and crazy. I get out of the city and start realizing this girl doesn't live in something I'm used to. It's a lot more rural than I thought. Like middle of fucking nowhere rural. Whatever, not a big deal, I guess I'm just nervous about the drive. I take a turn down onto the street she lives. I see several trailers. I'm like, oh fuck, okay, well I don't really care if she's wealthy or not. I pass the turn on accident and almost pull into a dead end at the end of the street where some guy's property has a big Confederate flag and a sign that says trespassers will be shot. Reverse down the road. Girl says she'll meet me outside. Immediate first impression, catfished hard. Girl looked almost triple her size from pictures. Well, not exactly a deal breaker for me, because I'd like to think I'm not too shallow. Get out of my car. Next impression is she's very, very quiet. Like I'm thinking, do you even want me here right now? Quiet, but she comes off as really shy was all. Couldn't look me in the eyes. Girl is wearing very baggy clothing. She tells me in a really awkward way that her mom wants to meet me, which made me a little nervous because we had not discussed meeting parents at all, and again, middle of fucking nowhere. As well as at this point, I'm noticing how run down this trailer looks. I agree, and follow her inside, and try not to fall into her home's stairs, which has fallen apart, and had a plank of wood laid across it to step on. I'm basically kind of scared that I'm getting like lured into someone's house to be attacked or some shit, but trying not to be mean. The house lead to her kitchen, and holy shit, this place has a stein. Literally some shit out of the show Hoarders. Garbage everywhere. Girl steps over garbage, and keeps and goes through a fucking door frame with a garbage bag hung from the top like those hippie bead doors, only obviously trashier. I follow her in, and the living room is even worse. Literally piles of garbage all over the place, can't even see the floor. I see her mom, laying on the couch. Mom is immensely obese, but I couldn't really even see her all the way because she's just in this pile of stuff basically. Mom said just a friendly hi. Have fun, girl. Okay. Walked backwards through the house and was thanking God I was outside. Girl says we could go to a park. I'm all about it, because please get me out of here. I let her in my car and realize she has extremely bad hygiene. Like really smells bad, extremely poor hygiene. Also notice slight mustache, which I feel very bad about feeling grossed out about, because I know for some girls, like if they have pose, that's very hard to manage. But this girl doesn't seem like she cared. At this point I'm kind of ready to just bail, as not attracted to girl, very awkwardly quiet, and just all around a very uncomfortable situation. I follow her instructions on where to drive, and am trying to make conversation. Girl is very quiet. We get to park. She immediately tries to make out with me. I'm like, there's kids literally playing right in front of us. She's like, oh, just pull in over there then. I'm super non-confrontational, so I will often do things I really don't want, and in this case I drove to some other part of the parking lot. Girl keeps kissing me. I'm thinking, okay, I'm not into this at all, but I guess. Kissing is okay. I keep pulling away though and saying, I'm sorry, I'm really freaking awkward. She keeps trying to kiss me, and I'm not into it at all, but whatever, I just wanted the F thing to be over. After this I'll make up some BS excuse and go home. I keep doing the whole, yeah sorry I'm awkward, and trying to stop things. Girl makes a comment like, you know, I put on my baggiest shirt because I expected to be bending over the seat. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool, haha. Girl was heavily hinting that she wanted to give me a blowjob. I told her, yeah, this is way too public for me, and she's like, oh, start driving. As soon as I'm on the main road, the girl tells me there's a Walmart we can park behind. At this point, I'm not about this at all. I say some shit like, oh, well, I've never actually been in this town. I was thinking it'd be fun if you showed me around, and maybe we can keep driving, right? Fun? And proceed to just drive around like crazy, and all around this non-existent rural area. After this I make up an extra, because she keeps talking about going to the Walmart. I'm like, yeah shit, lost track of time. I need to go study for my exam. I'm really sorry. I drive her home, and she asks me to get out of the car, so she can give me something. I resist at first, but end up getting out. She goes and grabs a very filthy bear plush holding a heart. I muster an thanks. She then says she wants a hug before I go. I'm like, okay. She tries to kiss me one last time. I stop her and she laughs and says, wow, you're awkward, and then I basically apologize and agree. I get back in my car, tell her I'd text her, and speed the fuck out of there. I then close the night out by calling my friend, telling him all about how awkward, gross, and terrible the whole day was, and how driving through the city was just the cherry on top of all the garbage. Worst part of all of this was I tell her it's not gonna work, but the next day was Valentine's Day, fun story but bad time, and felt like a dick for but being into it. I had a girl that I used to work with call me years later after building some sexual tension while we're working together. But she had a boyfriend at the time, first red flag, then a month after she dumped him she called me for a date. She kept telling me how I was special and something that she really wanted and had been wanting you for a long time. 6 months and she decides to go through my computer and all of my messages and proceeds to take everything out of context, and after her invasion of my privacy, I decided to break it off. The only smart thing I did in this relationship. But then I got lonely, and so did she, and she thought it would be fun to be friends with benefits, and so did I. Justin was complete honesty, and if we were seeing anyone else to be upfront about it, and since we were having unprotected sex, if we had sex with anyone else it would be safe. She proceeds to start seeing someone that she deliberately told me wasn't a threat and didn't tell me about. And the day that I called her after the date she lied to me, and then eventually broke down and said they had sex. Unprotected sex to boot. I didn't take this well, and she seemed very concerned about how I was taking it. We met up later, and she was telling me how hurt she was feeling the whole time, joking with the guy she cheated on me with about how she had a sore throat from him, F her face. Yes, I know I've lost track of how many red flags too, but she apologized and I took her back, and he told me that he was nothing and a meaningless F boy. Fast forward 3 years, and I catch her cheating on me again, this time with multiple people. My stupid ass thinks their sole path forward for us because I was emotionally committed to the relationship. And those 3 years are me trying to make things right. And it turns out she had been trying to drive me away, but she didn't have the guts to break up with me. So that explains why she was cheating on me with anyone that showed her interest. We started couples counseling, and that's when she told me her meeting with FBOI had been a relationship, not just a one-night stand. I was also having health issues at this time, and my first hospitalization was when she really started cheating on me in earnest. And when I got paranoid enough about it, I looked up her Reddit history, because she would give me her username in the past. Needless to say, that was very eye-opening and hurtful, because she is on our /adultery telling people how to cheat and get away with it. Also multiple posts complaining about her horrible boyfriend. Also a post about cheating in other cities, and complaining she couldn't find a good AP in her local area. It wouldn't reject her when they found out she was cheating. I confronted her with the information on cheating in her Reddit posts, and she hid her history and got mad at me for invading her privacy. I should also point out during this, she got arrested for being blackout drunk, slashed her wrists, and didn't tell me, and during COVID I supported her while she was throwing money into her vacation fund. In the beginning of 2021, when I had another health issue and was hospitalized again, she broke up with me 2 days after Valentine's Day, after ignoring me for several days in a row, while I was still recovering from surgery. During this relationship, I kept trying to make moves to get us closer physically and emotionally, because it was a long-distance relationship, about an hour drive. So I was choosing jobs that were between her and I so I could eventually move towards her, and I wasn't taking the opportunities near where I lived because I wanted to be with her. There was more, including lying about a lot of things and taking advantage at me and my support, including lying to me about how much things cost so she could pocket some extra cash for drugs, when she wasn't just blowing her drug dealer. So I wasted 6 years of my life, crippled my career, and put my kids through hell because they liked her too, even though in private she talked about how my children were a burden. And yes, I understand that I was stupid during all of this. But the kicker was when she finally grew enough of the spine to break up with me, she blamed every bad day she had had on me, which ignored her poor decisions, alcoholism, self-harm, and constantly seeking attention from other men. I had built my life around the relationship because I loved her and I thought she was my future. So when we broke up and I realized she had been trashing me to anyone who would listen, the majority of my friends evaporated, and people I thought I could trust were the ones covering for her having affairs. And I ended up checking myself into a crisis ward about a month later, as I was having a hard time recovering from the pain of my surgeries and the isolation. And the worst part is we still have a mutual friend occasionally tells me how much she still lies about it, so she doesn't look like a bad person, which was also her excuse for lying to me for all those years. She also likely staking my Reddit post. So Emily, I hope you see this and realize you're a horrible person, and I never want to see you again. You also deserve all the pain you bring on yourself. Very hot but innocent girl in college decides she wants to have a date and get frisky. Even goes so far as to tell me beforehand that she wants to do some oral, though she's inexperienced. No problem, nothing like learning on the job. We have a little date, make out a bunch, go back to my place. She's a little awkward at making out and being sexy, even to the point of clumsiness. She's caressing my face in the car to the point where she is covering my eyes sometimes. She's down to her panties, holy shit, friends. Her body was perfect, but won't let those come off. Well, oral on her is going to be tough like that, but I'm not going to pressure her. We can just make out, and whatever she wants can happen. Some hand stuff over the panties, and she's enjoying it, I'm enjoying it, and I think at this point my boxers have come off. She climbs up, still clad in panties, and starts riding and moaning. Fuck yes, okay, she's digging it, that's great. And it's only a little uncomfortable compared to the good it feels. Every so often she gets it to the angle where it's like, oh, her panties are all that's keeping that from going in, and then goes back to riding. I can feel through her panties that she's basically got me right down the center. And we're both enjoying that. Smiles, moans, heavy breathing, it's good. Then, without pausing her ride or changing tone or emotion whatsoever, she says from atop me, "It feels like I'm being attacked." Hit the brakes. What the F? What? What did you just say? I roll out from under her and leap to the other side of the bed, hauling my underwear up. What do you mean? I've asked for consent every step of the way and made sure everything was okay after we started. If you don't want this, we didn't and don't have to do this. I'll take you home and won't touch you again if you don't want this, that's okay. She assured me that she did give consent and that she did want to be there. To this day I have no idea why she said attacked. I asked my way through every possible angle of consent to see where I might have misstepped or what boundary I might have crossed. Nope, none. I don't know if she knows why she said that. She was really awkward and maybe a little too innocent and naive, but she assured me that everything was consensual and she wants to keep going, But she's afraid if I touch her V, or if she finishes, she'll be addicted to sex, and she won't be able to be a virgin on her wedding night. She was enjoying it, she said, but maybe too much, so we had to stop that. But, she suggested, she'd give me a job. It was as terrible as you might expect. I truthfully have no idea why I didn't just say absolutely no. The drive to take her home was weird, and my drive back to my house made me reevaluate my life choices, and where I let my, now very sore, dick lead me. It still led me to some other regrets in the future, but this was the only one this bad and terrifying.